Hey friends, Liz here to invite you to check out our Patreon. That's where we publish extra episodes every other week, and that's also where we will continue any series we're reading. So if you liked our coverage of ACOTAR, Guild, High Mountain Court, or Fourth Wing, check out our Patreon to continue those series along with us. We also let you know what we're reading each month in advance in case you want to read along with us too. There might be a few other surprises throughout the year for our patrons as well. You can get all of this for just $3 a month, so check it out and we would really appreciate the support. Anyway, on to today's episode.
Welcome to Your Safe Space, the podcast your partner, friends, parents, whoever thinks is dirty. Don't have time to read books? Want to understand the jokes in the TikToks? We got you, fam. We're the Spice Traders, and we deal in spicy books. I'm Katie, and I need it to make sense.
I'm Liz, and I'm hypercritical. As always, we start every episode with 3 things. The first is a generic trigger warning. You can find specific triggers for this book in our show notes, so please check those out. Also, we do use foul language and talk a lot about sex. If you have sensitivity to any of this, please give this episode a skip.
Secondly, we talk about books. The whole book, nothing but the book, so help me goddess. If you plan to read this book and don't want something spoiled right now, don't listen to this episode.
Lastly, we acknowledge that a good book can hit you at the wrong time. The views expressed in our discussion are our opinion, and we absolutely don't want to diminish the work and the talent of the authors in our community. That said, we have some notes.
Anyway, shall we get into it?
Yeah, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about part 2 of The Sea Witch by Rebecca F Kenney. And this part will cover chapters 29 through 55. And then at the end, we're going to do our ratings. So that's the disclaimer you're going to get. So if you don't know what's going on, listen to listen to part 1 or read the book. So let's just jump right into it. So at the end of part 1, which is fully where I thought this book was going to end, Avril gets the little fork thing for the sea witch, and like I'm literally reading this book at 50%, and I'm like, what the fuck is the rest of this book gonna be about? Because
that's the exact thought I had. I thought that she would get the fork back to him and we would have like 15% left, like some weird wrap up, save the damsel, they're in love, whatever. But we solidly had another 200 pages left, and I had no guesses what was going to happen.
No.
Not really.
Not really. And I will admit that, like, it was probably a little bit more drawn out than it needed to be, but I was here for it, and it was good, and, like, it was great storytelling.
Yeah, it was compelling. Like,
right.
I'm not mad about it. It could have used a little bit light editing.
Light editing. It doesn't have to be 400 plus pages, but anyway. So she's got the fork, and now she's got to get it to the sea witch, right? And so we cut to the celebration of the prince and Avril's engagement. And this is where she and the sea witch are going to try to meet. Avril's been dressed in this like very modest, very hot gown by the prince because he doesn't want anybody else to look at her. And if that's not purity culture, I don't know what is.
That was disgusting because before they were engaged, he was dressing her in like really low cut gowns, like showing off everything. But now that she's quote unquote his, no one else can look at the goods.
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking gag me with a spoon, dude.
For real.
So as they're at the celebration, they're very heavily guarded, and Avril isn't sure she's going to be able to get away to see the sea witch. But then, as they're watching a show, fireworks unexpectedly go off and chaos ensues. The prince is ferried away by his guards, and Avril is left basically to her own devices. And that's like so very telling, not just because the prince doesn't like make sure that she's okay, but he hasn't even instructed his guards, like, okay, if something happens, like you two stay with Avril.
On her.
Right? Like, no.
Yeah. No, she's a piece of property.
Yeah, doesn't give a shit.
Nope.
So, of course, the sea witch finds Avril and takes her to a secluded cave against the seawall. He demands the fork, and she willingly gives it to him. And they snipe back and forth, but they can't resist this, like, almost physical pull between them. And they end up making out against the wall.
It's really hot.
And he even, like, uses his claws to, like, rip off this, like, stifling gown that she's in. So, like, her clothes are shredded, and she's, like, basically naked. And And they're like right on the verge of having sex, but Avril makes this like hesitation body language situation, and the sea witch is like, oh, okay, let's not do that, but like we can still have fun. And he like finishes against her stomach,
which was great. I love the way this all played out, because I liked how she did think about it, and it wasn't because of her purity culture. It was just like, okay, I'm not ready. And he didn't make it gross. He immediately honored it and didn't like stop the scene either. Like, we can still do a lot of things without going to the place that you're not comfortable with. And I really liked that.
I did too, especially because they didn't even talk about it. Like, she didn't say a word. He just read the situation and was like, okay, heard, we're going to do something else.
Yeah, like, you're still into me. I could tell you're still into me, so I'm not going to like drop you, which I feel like a lot of authors would have done. Like, read the body language and been like, okay, we're done here, cold turkey. And I'm glad that they don't do that.
Or even like go so far as to like make it a thing where you interrupt the flow, and then it's like, it's so easy to get in your head after that of like, well, maybe if I had just like let it go, like we would have had more fun, you know?
Yeah.
It's just really well done.
So perfect.
But unfortunately, their tryst is being watched, and this spy makes a noise, causing the sea witch to go after them, leaving Avril alone and half naked in a cave. In that moment, Avril realizes that the sea witch doesn't really have a reason to see her again, despite needing to like give her voice back. And she starts picturing a life without him, and that makes her feel like she can't breathe. So she cries alone in the cave, and at some point, the sea witch has gone too far away and her voice is painfully ripped away from her again. So when the prince's guards finally locate Avril, she looks the part like she's been raped and robbed, and she's just silently crying by herself.
Oh, which was really sad.
I know.
And that's the other thing. I love how the author crafted their relationship, because we know how they of course tell us too, but like, just her realization of, oh, I'm never going to see him again. She doesn't give us a lot more internal monologue than that. But like, seeing how she reacts just at that thought tells us like all we need to know about how she really feels, without her saying like, but I love him. Like, right. We do get that later, but it's just so cleanly done.
Yeah, it's so clearly communicated without giving us the declarative lines like that. Like, the declarative lines in this book are few and far between, and I love that.
Yes. Oh, so good.
So we cut back to the sea witch, who has caught up with the person that was spying on them, and we find out that it's Brixius. So Brix recognizes the sea witch and feels vindicated that he knew Avril was up to no good. He's like, I knew it. I knew it.
I knew it.
So the sea witch is like, okay, dude, I can't let you like blow our cover. So he takes Brix out to a secluded rock in the sea and leaves him there while the sea witch continues with his machinations. Before the sea witch leaves, though, Brix tells him, quote, do not pity him, the prince. Fear him. He has no honor, no mercy, no sympathy, none of the emotions that made Perendal your friend before he was your enemy. Kieran is void of all feeling except love for himself, and he has no good intent toward the girl. I don't know what his plan is, but he's not marrying her out of love. Of course, someone as clever and clear-sighted as you must already know that.
I really like Brixius, and I wanted them to be friends. I wanted to like see their friendship.
I liked him too, and he's such a complex character, even though he doesn't have like a huge role, because it's clear that he has a very clear sense of right and wrong, and that his current employer really tests that line for him.
Yep.
But yeah, I really like Brix. So the sea witch briefly considers what Brix means by the prince has a plan for Avril, but he ultimately decides that Avril can handle herself, and so he's going to refocus on his own vengeance. So he heads back to his lair with the intent of breaking the spell on his trident, which is not actually a hors d'oeuvre fork. It's actually trident sized, but the spell that he has to lock it away made it shrink down.
Made it tiny.
Made it tiny and cute. Although it would be really fucking funny if he had a trident and it was just like magic wand sized.
It would be much more convenient.
It's so much more convenient, especially because there's a lot of logistics of he's like, God, this trident's so big. Like, I need like a strap for my back. Like, I need my hands free.
Yeah, like he talks about, for the duration of the book, he talks about like carrying it. Just
Yeah.
seems like a lot of work.
I'm like, if you had an hors d'oeuvre fork, you could like put that bitch on a chain around your neck, like not worried about it.
And then make the chain just never leave your neck. Like, that'd be great. It'd be way easier.
So meanwhile, Avril is back at the palace enduring the raging of the prince. He is furious that she's, quote, soiled goods now. But Cass, the apothecary, tells him to like get a hold of himself and comfort his betrothed. Come on, dude. Don't be weird.
Get it together.
Yeah. And then after that happens, Avril is allowed to bathe and soothe herself alone. As she does this, she calls for the sea witch. He almost doesn't answer, but at the last minute, he stops his journey to his lair to answer her call. And Avril's intention for calling the sea witch is because she wants to ask him why he wanted the trident / hors d'oeuvre fork at all. And so he tells her the whole story. So let's buckle up, Buttercup. So we learn that the sea witch used to be the king under the sea. He inherited this from his mother before him, and the fork is a trident of power that helped her and now him channel their magic. Tarion, Avril's father, was the sea witch's advisor. And during an attempt to broker peace with the humans via King Perendal, Tarion fell in love with Perendal's sister, Prella. But the human king forbade any contact with her. He was basically like, look, don't touch, she's off limits. So the sea witch kept Tarion away from the human lands, but he ended up having a relationship with Prella himself. And eventually they were found out, and together Tarion and Perendal plotted the sea witch's downfall. They ended up paralyzing him and stealing his trident, and Tarion made himself king under the sea, and then he and Perendal cut ties and began spreading propaganda against each other. Tarion then instituted the harsh religion for his kingdom. He even tried to have Prella come and be his bride underneath the water, but she couldn't really survive under the sea without a full transformation, and so she eventually died a really gruesome death.
Ugh,
Basically, like, Tarion like could make her breathe underwater, but like her skin and stuff like it couldn't deal with being underwater that long, nor could it deal with the pressure, and so she basically like just died from exposure.
Which is, and we found out that he was raping her.
Yeah.
She wasn't there willingly either. Oh, Prella, you did nothing wrong, girl.
Yeah, totally. So after Prella died, the high priestess of this new religion became Tarion's, quote, one true mate, and together they sired Avril and her sisters. So one more thing we learn about this whole thing is that Tarion's ascension to power was aided by the nobility at the time, whom the sea witch had sought to destroy in favor of a more equitable society.
He wants there to be like a president and self-ruling government, and
He's
Tarion
a communist.
wants to be king.
Like,
he's
literally.
a communist, and I love it.
I know. Just like the redistribution of wealth, the rising up of the working class, taking ownership of the means of making shit. Like, thank you. I was like, good.
He's a communist. Okay, so there's this thing that happens in my brain where whenever I try and think of the word communism, all I can think of is consumerism. And like the word communist goes out of my head. So every time I want to talk about communism, I have to like work around it.
Oh my gosh. That's like some brainwashed capitalist bullshit right there.
I know. I can't say it happens a lot because I'm not talking about communism that much, but like enough that I've noticed that I forget the word communism consistently and think consumerism.
That's so wild.
I know.
So after Avril knows the truth, she begs the sea witch not to kill her father or her sisters. He doesn't make any promises about her father, but he does promise not to harm her sisters as long as they don't get in his way. And he then reveals that he never intended to give Avril the choice of returning to the sea. She is shattered from the knowledge that he used her, and in return he tells her, quote, consider it a learning experience. And now you have the skills you need for life on land. I wish you a full and happy existence as a human, and I mean that. What a dick.
What a dick. The only thing that makes it less dickish is that we see how uncomfortable he is saying these things and he doesn't know why. He's like, why was that so hard to hurt her feelings?
Is this love?
Is this love?
So their conversation is cut short because the sea witch is attacked by a shark and he's like, gotta go. BRB.
Gotta go, Peaches. Bye.
In the aftermath of their discussion, once again alone, Avril is most gutted by the knowledge that in the end, she really did mean nothing to the sea witch. So she takes the sleeping draft left for her by Cass and falls asleep. Don't do it,
Don't
girl.
take drinks left by your enemies.
Right? So she's awoken in the middle of the night by someone that she can't quite make out. But this person is prodding her to take a drink to the king and force him to drink it to save his life, which she does. But when she wakes up in the morning, she realizes that she's been manipulated into poisoning and killing the king. And so she's arrested and thrown into the dungeons.
So one thing that I like about her as a character, but I found really interesting, was Avril's a pretty innocent person. I mean, like, she'll fight for herself. She has no guilt about murdering the king. Like, obviously it wasn't her fault. She was drugged, but like, she doesn't give it a second thought.
No, she really doesn't. And between that and her total, like, I don't want to say comfort. She literally doesn't think about it except to tell us what's happening. Like, she has no problem being naked.
No, not at all. And I think that's because, like, no, never mind. I was going to say, I think it's because nudity doesn't really matter to her because those parts are new, but she wore a corset before. So
yeah, at least the top half was the same.
Yeah, but she doesn't care about being naked at all.
But it is weird that, like, she has these things happen to her that I thought would be more meaningful, and she just, like, literally does not think about them.
Right, like, the most she thinks about this murder plot is that her hands are still blistered from the poison. Like,
She's like, ow, that hurts.
there's never even like, oh, the poor king, like, he suffered, I feel bad that, like, that was my, like, nope.
Nope. Like, fully
She's
does
just
not
like,
take
I didn't do
ownership of it.
Wasn't my fault.
It wasn't me. So back to the sea witch, who is finally in his lair to break the spell on the trident. The process is taxing and intricate, but eventually results in the destruction of his lair because the trident fights his influence. And I'm like, was it worth it, girl?
Also, like, did you think, I mean, obviously he didn't know that was going to happen, but maybe do it outside? Because he blows up his house.
For real. And, like, he needs this shit. Like, in the process, he loses the shell with Avril's voice inside. And I'm like, you're the source of your own problems. And then all of his, like, supplies that he needs to, like, do magic are, like, not there because it's blown up and it's, like, rubble everywhere. I'm like, it doesn't feel like this plan was very well thought out.
No, and we find out later, just as a side note, that his thruple friends, he blew up their house too because, like, they live in the same space. Like, he just destroyed everything.
Yep.
And is like, I'm not going to worry about that.
I'll deal with that later.
It's fine. Literally, I'll deal with that later.
Yeah. He compartmentalizes a lot too because this whole losing the shell thing, he's like, I'll do that later. I have a priority list right now. And that goes, I have to depose Tyrion, and then I got to get bricks off that fucking rock before he dies. Like, let's go.
And then I got to find her shell and it'll be fine.
Right. So back to Avril, who had been knocked unconscious in her scuffle with the guards, and she comes back to consciousness in the dungeon, and the prince is there. He confesses that it was his plan all along to use her to kill his father, and that he and Cass colluded for years to do so. He also tells her that he's willing to show Avril mercy if she is willing to make herself useful sexually. When it's clear that she's super not into that, the prince leaves, thankfully.
Ugh, disgusting.
During this conversation, though, Avril realizes that this experience is exactly what led to the sea witch living for vengeance. She tells us internally, quote, "The grief and anger in my heart, those same emotions made the sea witch into the person he is. That's why he can't care for me, why he chose revenge over the connection we have. He's broken the same way I'm breaking. I finally understand him." She continues, quote, "He might never speak to me again. He might never beg my forgiveness or change his mind. He might tear apart my father's kingdom and end my father's life and leave me stranded on land stuck in this form. All of that will hurt me deeply, but I will love him anyway. Not because he deserves my love any more than Kieran does. Gods know he doesn't. I love him because I can't help it. Because in the sea witch, I hear the deepest echo of my own soul."
Oh, it gives me chills.
I know, and I know it's a long quote, but I love the poetic way that she ends up at the concept of a soul echo. And I thought that was a stupid concept in the first part of this book, but the way that she brings it around and describes it here, I was like, okay, girl. I'm on board.
I know. I liked that too. And he basically says the same thing later, but I really love how it's done without... The author doesn't make the characters admit that there's such thing as a soul echo, but shows us that that's what they're experiencing.
Right. Yes. Oh, God, it's such a beautiful way to say it. Because even later, Avril says to her sister, I'm not sure I believe in one true mate. And I'm like, girl, you're an idiot.
I know, like, you clearly do. You clearly do.
Okay.
Okay, girl. It's such a beautiful quote. I highlighted this quote too. There were quite a few things that I was like, okay, you are very lyrical in your writing.
I think that's another reason why I didn't mind that this book kind of like, it was not edited as tightly as like I like think it should be, probably, because like there's just so much beautiful prose that I was like, I'm fine. Between that and the sex, great. I'm good.
I'm good. I'll take it.
Yeah. So a little later, Brix comes to see her and threatens to tell the prince everything that he knows. But Avril begs him for a pen and paper so that they can communicate. And since Brix was a part of the negotiations with the Sea Witch when the Sea Witch was king, he can read merfolk writing. So she writes down her entire tale, and when Brixius is finished reading it, he tells her that he believes her and promises to free her. Though he's uncertain what to do about the prince, he admits to Avril that he's suspected for a while that the prince is a vile, evil person. Unfortunately, they are interrupted by Cass, and she has Brix taken away to be questioned about what Avril wrote. When Avril's alone again, she realizes that because of what she's written and confessed to, once the prince knows the level of her betrayal, he will kill her himself and make it very painful.
Because he's horrible, and Cass is horrible.
Yeah, they're two sadists who have found each other, like literally murderous sadists.
For real. And they get off on it, which is a scene later that I was not into.
No. And I'm glad we didn't get to see that like fully. I was just like, oh God, I might skip ahead.
I know. I was getting ready to like hardcore, just like skip.
Yeah. So back to the Sea Witch, who invades Tyrion's domain easily with his trident restored. Like, not a problem. Once there, he finds that Tyrion is packing and was intending to flee from the Sea Witch rather than face him and his past sins.
Fucking coward.
What a fucking coward, dude. The Sea Witch imprisons the king and makes him confess his past misdeeds to his people while his daughters bear witness. During this, we learn that the Sea Witch hadn't gotten a chance to free Brix yet. Rather, it was Tyrion's men who found him and returned him to the shore. And when he finds this out, the Sea Witch is like... fuck, because he knows Avril is in grave danger now.
Oops.
Whoops. Seeing his panic and understanding, Elaine, Avril's like closest sister and like the only one that seems to be halfway decent, is like, you go do what you got to do with Avril, like I'll handle things here. So the Sea Witch orders Tyrion to be in prison and that Elaine be in charge until he returns, and then he leaves to go help Avril.
Which, like, what was I just going to say? I lost it. I really liked how the tension was built here, like seeing the dual POVs. And I always love a multi-POV, but the things happening at the same time and the reveals in each were just really satisfying and stressful.
And I think that honestly, like some of the things that do happen could have been like referenced and we didn't have to see them, but just like the amount of time that we're building up to this big like damsel in distress moment, like I am not mad about it.
Nope, I'm not mad about it either.
Yeah. So we cut back to Avril, who's being tortured in an attempt of the prince and Cass to turn her back into a mermaid. Brix held out, but eventually caved, and once he confessed to what he knew, Cass cut out his tongue and summoned Avril for this purpose. Eventually, they find a tincture that turns Avril back into a mermaid, and it's the same painful process that it was before, except now Avril's even more tired and broken down than she was when the Sea Witch first did it. So happy with their success, Cass and the prince leave to plan how they're going to entrap the Sea Witch and steal his trident. What they end up agreeing to do is they suspend Avril and Brix over a cove with shark-infested waters. And the prince has summoned his entire kingdom to watch this, and it's clear he's determined to get the trident one way or the other. To Avril's delight and horror, the Sea Witch comes for them both.
The timing. It was so stressful.
I know, right? Because they're like hanging there and she's like, he's not going to come for me. Why would he come for me? This doesn't make any sense. He's got his own shit to do.
Right, like, and he would never like trade all of his power for me.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So the Sea Witch is coming at them on this great big tidal wave, but just before it smashes into the cliff where the prince stands, the prince offers the Sea Witch a deal, the trident for Avril and Brixius. The Sea Witch agrees, and Avril's horrified. She's also a little bit deflated that the Sea Witch referred to her as a friend, which
I was a little bit like, girl, really?
Girl,
That's
now
what we're
is
going to
not
worry
the
about
time.
right now. This is not the time. Also, he says, like, my friends. So, like,
Yes.
her and Briggs. And I was just like, my lady. What is he supposed to do? Confess his undying love in this moment? It's not the time.
Not the time. Like, not the time nor the place. And
Right.
And she's also having this internal monologue of like, just give me my voice back. Give me my voice back so I can fucking help and tell you what I know and like all of this stuff. And he's just not doing what she wants him to do.
Like, I cannot. Sorry.
Nope. So the deal is made and the Sea Witch hands over his trident to the prince. But as soon as the prince has the trident, he breaks the deal and cuts the ropes suspending Avril and Brixius, and they fall toward the water with the sharks.
Who could have seen this coming?
Who could have seen this coming? I gotta say, this reveal I did not see coming. I saw the prince reneging on the deal, but I didn't see how it resolves.
Me either, at all.
So what had happened is that the Sea Witch on the tidal wave is not the real Sea Witch. It's one of his lackeys glamored to look like him. The real Sea Witch reveals himself in this moment, and he's been disguised as a guard at the prince's side. So the real Sea Witch catches Brixius and Avril before they fall and brings them safely back to land next to him. He and the prince then square off, but the prince is prepared and has archers ready to attack. And when they can't hit the Sea Witch directly because of his power, they aim for Avril. This causes the Sea Witch to panic and use himself as a physical shield, and he's hit by a number of arrows and severely injured.
And I just have to say, the whole damsel in distress thing still just hits every time.
It's not old. Yeah,
No.
So here for it. So then the prince kicks the Sea Witch off the ledge into the water, and Avril uses this opportunity to grab the trident that the prince has pushed aside to do so. She then uses it to shove the prince off the ledge by impaling him in the stomach on the trident. And then she follows him off the ledge as he plunges to his death.
Also, I loved that.
I did too. I loved that it was her that killed him.
Yes, that's what needed to be done.
Yeah. And it was
Also,
beautifully poetic because she saved him at the beginning of the book and now is choosing to let him die.
like returning him to the sea.
Yeah.
And this is probably just me reading into it because The Little Mermaid is my favorite. But have you ever read the original Hans Christian Andersen Little Mermaid? Mm-mm. So her deal with the Sea Witch, I mean, it's one of it's the old fairy tales, right? So they're like really morbid and gruesome. But I don't remember how it all plays out. But basically, like, to stay a human, she has to kill the prince. Like, that's the deal, is she has to stab him. And she can't do it, so she like throws herself into the ocean and like turns into sea foam or some shit. But I kind of liked that. Like, and I don't know if Rebecca F Kenney, like, definitely this is nodding toward Disney, but I did kind of like that she stabbed the prince.
Yeah, that's
and she
awesome.
gets to keep her body. Yeah.
It helps that the prince was also an asshole. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. So once in the water, Avril makes her way to the Sea Witch, but he's really in a bad way. His friends / lackeys are there to help her fend off the sharks as she presses herself and the trident to the Sea Witch's unconscious form in an attempt to heal him. And that works. He wakes up. And when he does, Avril immediately demands her voice back. And turns out the Sea Witch has found the shell that her voice is in and gives it back to her.
Finally.
Once she can speak, they argue about him putting himself in such mortal danger. And then, speaking of mortal danger, they realize that Brixius is very much still in mortal danger, and so they determine to save him right now.
I did like that suddenly she remembers him and is like, I have to go.
Guy gotta go. Oh shit. He's like your one friend, dude. You can't. And the other three are just like, excuse me?
They're like, why should we care? She's
Right.
like, nope, we're going right now. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
He's like, my tentacle just got eaten by a shark. Can we not?
Can we not do that? So the Sea Witch demands that Avril stay in the water, but she refuses to do that and let him fight alone because she loves him. And she says it out loud. And the Sea Witch is stunned by this admission, but she keeps him on task. She's like, Brixius, then heal, and then we can talk. Like, we got shit to do, my guy.
Let's go, buddy.
So the Sea Witch grabs Brixius, and before he goes back under the water, he tells the guards and the rest of the bystanders that the king is dead, and he's like, do with that what you will. Deuces.
I loved that. Like, good luck.
Good luck. Don't fuck it up, I guess.
I guess. Not my problem anymore.
So the group of them go to a nearby beach, intending to go to the Sea Witch's rooms on land and use what he has there to heal, instead of going all the way to his lair. Also, they got to heal Brixius, and they can't transform him into a merman, so like it just makes more sense.
It's a whole thing.
On the shore, the friends/lackeys help get the arrows out of the Sea Witch before they set off on land, and to distract him, Avril asks him questions. I have to say that this was a really sneaky question game, and I wasn't mad about it.
I was wondering if you were going to clock it as a question game, but I wasn't mad about it either. And it fits with her personality because she is so inquisitive and like he's in pain, so distracting. Like it all made sense.
Yeah, it did. And it was so seamless because she doesn't start it by saying, I'm going to distract you by asking questions. She just starts asking questions and he's like, is now really the time? She's like, yeah, it's distracting you.
Yeah. And he's like, damn it, you're right.
Damn it. Okay, fine. So, as a product of this conversation, we learn that the reason that he and his friends/lackeys are differently formed is likely due to a heritage of magic in their genetic line. And Avril ends up calling that beautiful, and the Sea Witch realizes just how different she is from when he first met her. Point of order, that this is also why he doesn't need gills to breathe. He tells her that it's like a genetic, like, oddity of his birth, that all of his breathing mechanisms are interior.
Which I liked getting that explanation because I was curious too.
I was curious too, and I also just think that it's illustrative of how well thought out, like, the underwater part of this is.
Yeah.
It's nice. So the Sea Witch then apologizes to Avril for leaving her in the cave and for making her believe that he could hurt her by, like, leaving her on land and killing her father, all of that stuff. But he confesses to her that he could not betray her in the end and does not intend to kill her father.
Oh, it's so nice.
I know. So finally, the three of them hobble to the inn. Avril helps the Sea Witch heal with the potions that he has there. And then the Sea Witch goes to heal Brixie boy.
Brixie boy.
And importantly, returns Brix's tongue. He's going to need that
Which
in a
is
second.
quite nice. Yeah.
So then the Sea Witch and Avril get some much needed sleep before they be fucking. And as they do, the Sea Witch says the words back to her, I love you.
It's so good. Also, before they get sleep, or as they do, is one of the cue scenes that Avril gets tired of waiting and just literally naps. And I just love it every time.
I love it too. And I especially love it here because she's literally been tortured and then put through hell. And I'm like, girl, you need sleep. Like, they both need sleep. And I'm just glad that they didn't get immediately to fucking.
Exactly. Even though they get sort of like handsy, both of them are both like, okay, we have stuff to do. We can come back around to this. And then they do.
Focus up. But yeah, girl, I mean, this scene was great. It's specific, long enough. I don't have a lot of notes for this scene.
I don't have a lot of notes either. It gave me everything I wanted.
Yeah, totally. One-handed book club over here.
Yep.
So they do that, and then they fall back asleep. But in the morning, they are immediately in danger again from that bitch Cass. Because
Get
she
out of
wants...
here.
Girl, like, leave them alone. Cass tries to get the trident, but this is really a big, like, nothing burger non-issue because Avril and the Sea Witch outsmart her and the guards easily. This experience does make the Sea Witch realize that he needs to take a stronger hand in determining what happens in the human lands, though. And so he announces to Avril and Brixius that he intends to install Brix as king. Okay, girl.
Okay, girl. Okay, so I want to talk about the Brix as king, but I do have a note. It was kind of a one-line fixer, and I hated it. So this, and really the end of the book is where, like, editing could really come in. So I think Avril even says, like, are we safe here? We're so close to the kingdom. And the Sea Witch is like, yeah, I glamored it. It just looks like a thicket of trees. But they're solidly at an inn. So we get a one-line fixer of how Cass could, like, see through the illusion for whatever reason. But don't you think they would notice that, like, yesterday there was an inn here and now it's a forest? That's not sus. Like,
Yeah.
what?
I had the thought too. I was like, shouldn't you just glamour the hallway so your doors don't appear?
Yeah.
That feels
use a
easier than the
lock?
whole ass building.
It was just so weird to me. I'm like, you don't. Okay, whatever. It didn't matter, but I was like, that was odd.
Yeah, I
And
clocked
then-
that too. I was like, what are we doing here? Like, I would rather not know.
Right. Just have it be like, no, they're busy. They're scrambling. They won't come looking for us.
Totally.
Like, but then also the install Brix as king, like, it wouldn't be that easy. And I don't need those ministrations, but you can't just make him king.
Yeah, like literally kingmaker over here, both on land and under the sea, which we'll see in a minute. Just like,
Yeah. And he basically is like, well, if they don't, I think they have a conversation where he's like, anyone who disagrees, I'll just kill them. And Avril's like, maybe don't kill everybody because they don't agree with you. And he's like, yeah, it'll be fine.
yeah, I guess you're right. Fine.
Poor Briggs is like, I guess I'm king now? Question mark. Oh, but the note I wanted to say, they get to this inn and Briggs doesn't have his tongue back yet. And he points to his wedding ring. And the Sea Witch straight up just assumes he's gay. And I loved that. Like, Briggs points to his wedding ring and the Sea Witch is like, oh, you have a husband or a wife? And he like nods at the wife. And I was like, I love that husband was your first guess, not
I know.
wife.
I mean, to be fair, his 3 closest friends are in a gay throuple. So, like, sure.
Right. So that's his default. But it just made me laugh.
I love that too. Very inclusive.
Yes, super inclusive.
Well, so speaking of ministrations I don't need to see, we fast forward 3 weeks later and things in the human realm are, quote, largely settled. Brix has a lot of support in the people and he's generally known to be a fair and good man. So I guess like him being king is just cool with people now.
Yeah, I mean, Kingmaker over here, at least he picked a good guy.
Yeah, it could be worse. So with
It
that
was
settled,
worse.
the Sea Witch and Avril finally leave the Summer Palace city to head back to the kingdom under the sea. But they take the long way, like including a horse ride along the coast long way. And look, I'm not mad about it because it involves a lot of really great sex, including a scene on a horse. And then there's one in a field with a splash of like maybe voyeurism. Like, yeah, no notes again.
There's also like a really tiny chase scene, like not the chase scenes we get in the Lost Boys book, but a little bit of a chase scene, like a little bit of that play resistance. And
Yeah.
I just literally no notes.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. No notes.
I was here for the whole end of this book.
Same. Is it a little bit drawn out? Yes. Is it the bonus scenes that I wish more books had? Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I will take the drawn outness for the bonus scenes. That's a fair trade to me.
Yep. So during this kind of time, these scenes, the Sea Witch promises to teach Avril everything that he knows about magic as she's asked him to, and there's no bargain required. And specifically in that last sex scene, they both admit that they want to be with each other forever, not just as some passing fling. So they both admit to this concept of like mates for life.
Forever.
Forever.
Forever, ever.
So then right before they go back into the ocean, we get one more blowjob scene. And just like, if this book didn't deliver already, I just really appreciated that.
I love a good blowjob scene.
Yeah. No notes.
It's so satisfying. No notes.
So once they're back in the ocean, they race each other to the kingdom under the sea, but the race ends in a tie, which I also thought was cute.
Yeah, because they have the whole, like, don't let me win thing. That was adorable.
So Avril is delighted to see her sisters again, especially Elaine, who's the only nice one. Then she sees her father, who is just terrible. Her father ends up berating Avril for letting the sea witch overthrow him and touch her, but she just tells him to enjoy his solitude and walks away.
She's so strong about it. And that's where we get the line. I don't have it in front of me because I walked away from my phone. But the sea witch in his inner monologue says something like about his adoration for her. And like, children they're not required to give their parents peace, especially after a shitty childhood.
Yeah, I loved that so much. And it was so poignant and it kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, okay, girl, jeez.
Yeah. And it was one of those things that Kindle showed me, like, it's been highlighted before. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure this line speaks to a lot of people.
Yeah, no kidding. So speaking of Elaine, she is the one that's been installed as like the person that's going to help the transition from a monarchy to more of an equitable society, which is what the Sea Witch originally wanted. And so that leaves the Sea Witch and Avril kind of more free to do what they want. And so rather than staying in the kingdom under the sea, they return, quote, home. And it turns out that home is the repaired lair that the Sea Witch has been working on in the past 3 weeks, which is still in that poison fauna forest. So he's made some additions to this new cave, including a whole separate wing for his throuple friends and a separate wing for he and Avril. And in their wing of the cave/house, all of Avril's collected human trinkets are on display, which is something we really didn't talk about, but she does make reference to the habit that she has of collecting. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? That whole thing.
And I liked how that came back around and he like gathered them. Elaine told him where they were and he displays them. He doesn't like brush her off as being silly. He like decorates their house with this human stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really cute, especially because she's like, and there's a chaise that's got like algae on it. Isn't it cool? And I'm like, sure, girl.
Sure, girl. All right. And there's a fiddle and now she doesn't have to wonder what it sounds like because she's heard one before.
Yeah, it was very cute. And so,
cute.
Then we get one final scene with the two of them in their merfolk forms. And even that was pretty darn good, I gotta say.
I was so curious how that scene was going to go because it could have been really weird and icky, but it was hot. It was honestly still one-handed reading club for me.
Yeah, and it was just like a great way to end the book with that physical and emotional intimacy. Like, it just great ending.
It was literally, I have very few notes on this whole book. I'm so pleased with it. I'm so glad we read it.
Yeah.
I don't know the TikToker that recommended it, but I am so here for it.
Same. All right, so let's get into our ratings.
Yes, let's. We are in unison. I see. Oopsies. Okay. Yep, we are in unison.
All right, so let's talk about our spice level rating. How do we do there?
We both gave it a 5. We get ample spice in this book. This book is a little over 400 pages, but we get a multitude of scenes in different spaces and body forms, and we get all of the communication and the way this author builds the connection between the two of them and their chemistry. Like, every scene we get is just so good. Like, there's a whole scene in part 1 that they don't even speak at all, and it's still so good because we know how connected they are. And I have no notes on the spice. I want to read more of this author just because I can trust her to write some damn good smut.
Same. And I think it's incredibly telling too, because I mean, with the exception of like the whole tentacle thing, which is definitely not vanilla, like, it's pretty vanilla, right? It's a heterosexual couple. It's just the two of them, but she creates that intimacy like you were talking about, and like desire and like pull between them. And the way that she writes about it is unique. Like, I feel, not that I'm mad about this in any way, shape, or form, but I feel like a lot of the romantic-y stuff that we read nowadays kind of has a predictable, like, cadence to the smut. Like it's he'll eat her out, and then they'll have mind-blowing sex, and then maybe she'll blow him once or twice, and then they'll have mind-blowing sex, but he spends a lot of his time on his knees in front of her. Like, I'm not mad about it, but it's kind of like the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, you're right. That is the sequence we get in a lot of the romanticides, and this one changed that.
Yeah, they even had just like, I don't want to call it mutual masturbation, but like kind of close, which you don't see a lot.
No, you don't see a lot. Or him just the horse scene where she just like makes him come in his pants from like rubbing her butt on him. Even that, I was like, I'm here for this. We don't see a lot of this.
Same. Totally same.
Oh, this is great.
So moving into writing style, we both rated that a 4. There's no major formatting issues. There's no formatting issues in this book. There were specifically a couple of things that we liked about the style of the book. Like one of them that comes to mind is like the way that the headings were in each chapter. So it was super fucking obvious who was speaking. Really appreciated that with my executive dysfunction over here.
Same.
The voices were distinct and engaging. Just no notes on the writing style at all. So quality of storytelling, similar thing.
Yeah, we both also gave that a 4 for very similar reasons. I mean, there aren't any major plot holes. There were a couple things we called out that were just kind of weird, like maybe errors or the author just didn't really think about it, but they don't detract from the story. And I think for me, and I think you'll agree, the biggest thing that made it a 4 out of 5 was just they could have used some light editing. There was some of the cleanup at the end that like just went on a little bit longer than it needed to. But in that same sentence, I'm still going to say that pacing was nice for all of the extra smut we got. That wasn't like, here's 3 chapters of them fucking.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that halfway through the book, the 50% mark was where I thought the story would end and it wasn't over was amazing.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So do we recommend this book?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot wait to read more by her.
Same. Wholeheartedly recommend this to anybody who's a fan of the genre. So we did it, guys. Those are our thoughts on The Sea Witch by Rebecca F. Kenney. Thank you, as always, for joining us on this journey. Let us know what you thought on the socials. You can find us on TikTok and Goodreads at Spice Traders Pod. And of course, if you like our podcast and you want more, consider becoming a patron, where we release Patreon exclusive episodes on our off weeks. And if you really, really like us, drop us a review wherever you listen. But until then, we'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.